have you ever felt like in places where you go in, you feel like a weird vibe? Do you ever get that?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that. It's like when you go into certain places, it feels real close. And that's kind of like where I think, I don't get that a lot, but in some of those places that, that could have a lot of activity, it's not, could it be a mindset? You're already going in with a preconceived thing? Maybe. But if you don't know that and you feel like, whoa, there's something going on here, there's a lot of people that feel that a lot more than me personally. And there's a lot of people that won't even go in to certain places.
What's up, everybody? It's the Poorly Edited Podcast, but wait, there's a twist. We're actually here. It's a crossover episode with the Bucks County Paranormal Investigations. I'm here with Eric Mintel, jazz musician, paranormal aficionado. How are you doing today?
Where is he? Oh, there.
I'm not a ghost. I'm here. I'm present.
Chandler, how are you, man?
I'm fantastic.
Good to see you.
It's shorter.
You made it through, man. You said
I
it.
did.
It's
a lot. That's a wordy title.
You didn't even look at the screen.
Don't get me wrong, Poorly Edited Podcast, not much better, but
they call it BCPI, if that helps.
Oh, see, that would have made a lot.
I'm sorry.
The sweat was beating.
I could have told him that beforehand, but I like to watch Chandler as anxious as possible.
I needed a teleprompter, I think is really what I was depending on.
You made it through, man.
Thank you.
We got the teleprompter over
I
here.
am so proud of you.
We got the script over here, please.
So, we're in Princeton, New Jersey.
Where we've never been before.
You've never been to Princeton?
Absolutely gorgeous. And I was seeing the most beautiful, elaborate homes, and I was seeing them being sold by Sotheby's. So I was like, well, we're in a whole new kind of bracket of existence here. I was like, oh, I can't afford to drive my car through this neighborhood.
Way to out yourself.
Yeah, we're from Allentown. Meanwhile, Mania.
I've seen that sign a million times.
Macungie. From Macungie.
Now, Macungie, come on.
Macungie's a little...
It's getting there. It's
not mine.
So you guys, I am so glad to be able to hook up with you guys because, in all seriousness, I've been telling everybody, these guys are phenomenal as far as very professional. You get right back when I sent you a text, email, boom, within a few seconds it's back. It's good because that really sets you apart in getting this stuff accomplished, right? Because we know in our industry, it's a waiting game, something.
And that adds up so quick.
Exactly.
It's like you wait 10 minutes at a time.
Exactly.
It's not even 10 minutes. If it were 10 minutes, because I run the communication, so if it were 10 minutes at a time, I would just be so grateful. But it's like weeks and weeks and weeks.
10 minutes would be fine.
I have a lot of people that think that if they don't receive it, people think that if they don't receive a notification that no one has ever sent them a message before, and they'll check their email once a month, and they'll be like, well, I have messages, but nobody sent me a letter in the mail to say that I had messages.
That's it.
So keeping up that constant communication is very important to us, which is how we're able to meet so many amazing people, like yourself.
And you've been so on point too. I mean, you've been amazing and setting all this up.
I appreciate that.
Awesome.
Well, that's kind of goes hand in hand with my jazz career because I've always been a self-starter. So I've always, I started my jazz quartet in 1993 actually, and right from the ground up. So my mentor in jazz was Dave Brubeck, and I took him as an inspiration, who was pretty much, a legend in the jazz industry, and saw what he was doing with jazz, how he did it, and I wanted to kind of model that and mirror that. So here we are 26 years later. We've had some incredible accomplishments, and it's just been a lot of fun, and it keeps getting, more fun with each year. We've all gone through the craziness. In music and arts, you're always going to have that crazy roller coaster life existence, but we've been very, very fortunate to, our jazz audience is some of the best audience around, that they come out to see us, and we've hooked up with a lot of really great people in the industry. So, and this is all a culmination of that, how you put things out there and things come back.
That's absolutely true. We know you because you used to work in your quartet with George Schraub, who was on our last episode. If you haven't seen the George Schraub episode, go to the Poorly Edited Podcast YouTube channel, check that out. That's going to be really, really cool.
About George Schraub, we were watching the Martin Tower implosion, And me and Josh were sitting in the parking garage, like pointing a camera at
4 or
it
5
from
in the
2 miles
morning
away.
when this happened.
And then we see George Schraub walk down the street and start digging through a trash can.
Yeah, that's a real.
I was like,
thing.
there's
A
no
real
way that's
thing.
him.
In the middle of the
digging
night.
But he was so well dressed.
Yeah.
That was the thing. That was the tip of the song.
Yeah, in the middle of the night, we saw him digging through a trash can, and then it's like a well-dressed man digging through a trash can. We're like, that can't be him. And then I sent him a message when we were all at breakfast that morning. We're like, hey, did you happen to see you digging?
Were you potentially, like, no offense, but I think you were digging through trash today. He's like, that was me. He's like, that was me. I lost my wallet last night, and I realized I threw it out in the trash. I was looking for my wallet.
Man,
I was
that's
like,
funny.
that's amazing.
That's amazing.
He's a talented guy and great drummer, and he played with me for I guess about 3 years back in the late 90s into the early 2000s, but we just reconnected a little while ago. So yeah, I mean, again, it's just like whoever you hook up with, in life. And I've always been very fortunate to have great musicians and great, people, positive people to hang out with. So it's been great. And then, so, I mean, this is great. We're here at the studio. This studio is awesome because it's, I have a couple of shows here. I have Talking Jazz with Eric Mintel and, of course, Bucks County Paranormal Investigations. Here in the studio, we do a sit-down interview show as well for the Bucks County Paranormal. I talk to ufologists, Bigfoot researchers, ghosts, ghost hunters and things like that. Authors.
Just straight up ghosts coming sometimes?
Straight up ghosts?
Sometimes.
There's nobody there.
Who was that? So it's been very interesting, and some of the people you meet are really, really interesting people. So. And then with my jazz show, I talk to up and coming jazz artists, people that have been in the industry for years, that people don't really know. So it's kind of like you get a chance to get them out there, and it's been really satisfying.
As far as the paranormal stuff is concerned, what has been kind of like the craziest story you've heard from somebody, like a guest that's come in with that?
Man, there's been a lot. There's been there's been a lot. I mean, well, the ones that we've a lot of stories I get are from, and they're not, let me just say first of all, that a lot of the stuff that you see on TV that's got the dark energies and stuff like that, I think that's all Hollywood stuff. I think that's all the, dark, evil stuff. I think that's all Hollywood. I think from my experiences, people who have experienced ghosts, they just I think they want to know, they're letting you know that they're there. The spirits are letting you know they're there. But I mean, we filmed a server in an interview segment at McCool's Red Lion Inn in Quakertown, and as we're filming him, and there's been a lot of activity over the years in this restaurant, we saw an orb. You've seen those. It's like, so it's not. It wasn't a piece of dust. It wasn't a bug. It wasn't a reflection. And I at first, when I looked at when we were doing the interview, I saw it out of the corner of my eye. And most of the time, I'm the one that's trying to debunk everything. I'm trying to figure out, wait a minute, that can't be it. But in this one instance, I was like, wait, that was interesting. That was very cool. Some other stories have been there's a lot of things we do are tied to the Underground Railroad. So a lot of people in our area in Bucks County, it's very, very historical that way, because you've got the Delaware River right there, Washington crosses the Delaware. There's the Underground Railroad element where the freed slaves would go to the Delaware and head north or head to different areas. So you've got a lot of residual energies, and a lot of people are seeing apparitions. They're seeing people, that might have been guarding or waiting for loved ones to come back. So those kind of stories, and just so many different things, but nothing too crazy. One story is there's a road called Hansel Road in Bucks County. It's off of 413. And a couple was driving on that road, and they saw somebody hitchhiking. And they thought it was a person hitchhiking, the guy hitchhiking. So they got up close, and he was very you could see right through him. And all of a sudden they got scared and took off. And the guy looks in his rearview mirror and sees the guy running right along, and he's doing 50 miles an hour, and he's still running along with the car.
Jeez.
So weird stories like that. Now you could say, yeah, is that true or not? You don't know, unless you unless you investigate it. But
I'm going to continue never going to Bucks County.
That's my
Patrick
favorite,
is
that's
out.
my
The
favorite
line,
thing
that's it, done.
about the supernatural stuff for me. Like, I'm a huge history buff, and it's always so tied to the history of the area and stuff.
Totally.
Like for Pennsylvania, out in Gettysburg, I've been to Colonial Williamsburg in Virginia, places like that, and it's, you can do those ghost tours, those ghost walks, and it's so enriched in that history, that went on there. Yeah.
So, a lot of people say, well, you're a jazz musician, and it's like, we were just talking about this earlier. It's like, I've always been a jazz musician, for years. So, but I've always loved the paranormal. I mean, I've always loved that from a very young age. There was a great show, it's way before your time. It was called Kolchak, the Night Stalker. It was like the X-Files. And this was a show back in the 70s, and it was about this reporter who worked for a newspaper, and he would go out and investigate all of these weird supernatural things. So that's kind of the idea that I wanted to do with Bucks County Paranormal Investigations, is go to check some of these areas out, but at the same time keep it like very family friendly, very like tongue-in-cheek. I mean, it's like Three Stooges meets Scooby-Doo. I mean, it's like that kind of thing, and there's a lot of humor in a lot of what we do. And we just got done doing a video on Sunday, videotaped, got all the footage for the General Warren, and that's a restaurant down in Malvern, and a lot of really, really wild activity there. And again, ties to history, because the building's from 1745. So and what I love about it too is I personally am learning about so much great history that we're passing by. Even up in your area too.
Yeah.
You've got, in Bethlehem, Allentown, you've got so many great buildings and things that we pass by every day that people don't know about.
Yeah.
There's an Indian museum up there too. I want to try to go investigate, because apparently, and the Sun Inn is apparently haunted as well. But the reason why I got into this was whenever we do a concert for my jazz group, we would always play really great venues, like very old historic theaters, right? And inevitably, there'd always be a ghost story involved in one of those theaters, like it's haunted. So I thought, wow, wouldn't it be cool to have a jazz group? We're sitting there, we play a concert, and we're done the concert, then later that night, we go and investigate the venue. And that's what kind of got my thought process going. And then we started producing videos, and it's kind of been blossoming ever since. And then we have, thousands of views on our videos on my Bucks County Paranormal page. There's an audience that's like waiting for these videos. And I look at it like it's an escape. It's an escape from the political, upheaval that's been going on. And people don't want to go there. They want to, find something that they can escape to and, either fantasize or whatever,
I love that your show has so many different elements of emotion to it. It can be like serious, and it can be funny. And do you have shows that are actually full of emotion because of the history, because of what you were saying with the Underground Railroad and people waiting for their loved ones? Have you had any shows or investigations that have had a lot of emotion to them? Oh
yeah. There was we did the Continental Tavern in Yardley, and there was now that one was a little interesting. Well, very interesting. There was a woman who lived on the second floor back in, I guess, the late 1800s, early 20th century, or 19th century. So I'm trying to think of how this went now. The restaurant used to be an old speakeasy, and because they found the new owners went in there, and they found a pit in the kitchen, and in the pit they found 10,000 whiskey bottles from the Prohibition era, which was wild. So then they found an old rusty revolver embedded in one of the bricks that was in this pit. And then they found this old bloody corset that was in there as well.
They found the entirety of Al Capone's body.
Jimmy Hoffa.
They're all there.
They're there. And then so some psychic mediums went in and found that they told the story of this woman, this beautiful woman that used to live on the second floor, died a violent death. So, and the weirdest thing is her picture, the owner bought this picture at a estate sale or something like that years ago. He found the picture and he put the picture up in the second floor. When he puts the picture up, they had all of this activity going on. So they brought a medium in, and in the picture, the medium says, "This is the woman that used to live on the second floor. This was the woman." So it's like, how did it was all like somehow connected. And so they're still doing investigations there. They've had several paranormal groups go in all the time, and there's a lot of things. The picture would fall off the wall, and people would feel that emotional like distress when they go up into that particular area. So is there times that you actually work with mediums and other people in this field to investigate? Not yet. We haven't yet, but I'm going to. There's a couple of people that. That's the other thing. It's like the demand for what we're doing. There's a lot of like demand. So we're trying to, and me being a full-time musician too. So we're trying to keep the caseloads, coming. So I get contacted all the time. I mean, if there's things that I can't personally look at, that I'm not qualified to look at, I will refer them to somebody that is qualified.
Well, I mean, there's nobody that I would think would be more qualified to be paranormally investigating than some jazz musicians, Eric. Like if there's any genre that I would trust to tackle such a thing, it would be the jazz.
You're right.
Sector,
You're right.
for sure.
Absolutely.
And so, where's that crossover come in? Where as a jazz musician, you go, I think there's some overlap here in the skill set and expertise.
You know what? I look at the genre. Look at the genre in the TV. So you see a lot of these people on TV, and you look to yourself and you say, how is this person qualified? Even like just some person, So at least we musicians are very, especially jazz musicians, I like to say, are very emotional creatures as it is. So we probably, in that respect, feel a little bit more than the average person because we're sensitive that way. But you also have to have some kind of a little bit of a history with things too. So, and I've had some experiences. Some of the people that I know have had some experiences. It all boils down to that. It's like, and wanting to know, hey, is this real? Is this a real thing? And like I had just mentioned, I had just lost my mom back in September. And so about a week and a half ago, I was playing her favorite song on the piano, and my girlfriend just happened to videotape me. I started on another song, and she's like, "Oh, that melody's really great. Can I play that again?" So she wanted to videotape. So she videotapes it with her phone, and I could show you guys too. It's unbelievable. This huge orb comes up from the screen and just goes out. So I like to think that was probably my mom's energy right there. It could, who knows? Who we don't know, but it's just the possibilities of, is there something else out there?
That's what makes it fun. Yeah, it's you don't know.
Because most of the time, I'm kind of skeptic in most things, but also who cares?
But you're just like
it's more. The world is more fun if there's ghosts running around.
Yeah,
so why don't I just open up the possibility to believe in that stuff?
I think that
and UFOs and everything else. It's like it's fun.
You just said it. It's fun, and the people that research Bigfoot and things like that, and UFOs and stuff like that. But I think it's like you have to have an open mind to other things, or else you're leading a joyless life.
Yeah.
I look at it that way. I mean, if you think of one thing, black and white, that's it. I don't want to think anything else. Then that's what it is. That's okay. Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
But for the most part, life isn't like that, though.
Exactly. And you've got millions of people experiencing these things. It's not just it's not mass hysteria.
Yeah.
You've got certain things that people are experiencing. So why not go out and try to investigate it? And thankfully, I have a great platform here to showcase it. And you guys too. You have these wonderful platforms of. There's a quote or somebody had said something. If you've got these great ideas and these platforms to bring it to the masses, you should. You have a voice, and do that because not a lot of people do. So and I think again that's why we all connected.
Yeah, absolutely. We have just the best audience, and we get to network and meet with the most wonderful people. And I think it's the energy that you give out, you put out there, and it's the work that you put out there, and those people come back to you and they listen to good stuff. But what I want to know is how you started paranormal investigations. Like, you're like, all right, I'm on this track, I've been a jazz musician for a really long time. Obviously, the next step is I'm going to go into paranormal investigations.
Yeah, like that first step, like what was that? Was that kind of like the superhero origin kind of, I'm going to investigate my first thing?
I also like that there's for most people it's like, they have a real job and then you're trying to make it as a musician, and you're like, you have a real musician job and you're trying to make it as a ghost hunter.
A real job in making it as a musician. Thank you. No, I get it, man. No, it's like I have these wonderful skills that make no money. No, but actually we've done really well as far as jazz goes, you know. So I thought, hey, you know what? I've always loved this genre. So what I wanted to do, it's not so much it's an investigation, but it's also promoting paranormal tourism.
Yeah,
so
which is positive. That's really positive.
Yeah. So,
which is a huge thing where we grew up.
Right.
So Chandler and I grew up in kind of the Carbon County area, and there's in Jim Thorpe.
Yeah.
So Jim Thorpe has a place called, it's the old jail in Jim Thorpe.
oh yeah.
Molly Maguire.
The Molly Maguire Museum. A lot of history, and so people.
I just talked to the owners of the old.
Did you really?
Really?
So people, really little backstory, which I don't know if I'm going to get this correct.
The Mauchunk Opera House too, is haunted.
Yes, it is. People would go to this jail to see everything that was happening there and all these different things that used to happen there, which was there were all these prisoners there, and the Molly Maguires were there, and
people escaped.
Right, and people escaped. A man actually stopped eating for a very, very long time, so he could become like this big, which was like what the wall was. So he got like butter, he slid out, and then what actually happened, and I did the tour, which was somebody was across the street in their own home, and they saw it as like he was like going down, and then he just walked across the street, and he was like, someone's trying to escape, and they just met him down there. I'm like, dude, don't do that. And he was like, I literally,
I went on that tour and they told me that dude got out and then came back years later and told them how he escaped.
They told me they got him right away.
Hey, I'm just gonna.
Of course they.
I'm just gonna hang out in town. I just escaped.
But to really,
I've been living down the street for this whole time.
I'm just gonna hang in town for the next 25 years.
Might put in an application, actually.
But the really emotional story there was that the Molly Maguires and one of the gentlemen in the Molly Maguires that was about to be sentenced to death said that he was innocent, and he put his hand up against the wall and said that if he was really innocent, his handprint would stay there forever, and it would never ever go away if he is innocent. And then he was hanged, and that was that. But his handprint never ever went away. And the owners claim to this day that they've never done anything to it. They said that they've invited tons of paranormal investigators and mediums and everything like that to test it out and to scientifically test it out, and they say that it's actually real and that you can feel all of the presence there, especially alone at night. I had a friend that would work there, and she said that she would constantly feel things when she was there alone. She felt like someone was always trying to get out. So that's just such an amazing thing. It's you don't realize that it's so close to you, but it's everywhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And in terms of promoting that tourism too, like you were showing us a cut of something you're working on, and like I love the feel of it and how like lighthearted and more upbeat it is for everything. Because I think for some people, when I talk about ghost tours to other people, they're like, oh, I don't like scary stuff. It's like scary, and that's like I feel like it's a misconception.
Yeah,
you know, that's like has to be like some scary thing.
I went up to Maine a couple summers ago, and we're in this town called Bar Harbor, and we went on a ghost tour, and it was just like we just learned a bunch about the history of the town, and they're like, there's like some sightings here and stuff, and they gave us the entire background of like why they're there and like what the history of that house or whatever is, and it was all like super interesting. And I learned a lot about the town that I probably couldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, you wouldn't have known.
So I like read a book about it or something.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we have around Bucks County, in pretty much all different areas throughout the country. And so when I did that, why I keep it lighthearted like that is because, again, it's not scary. I mean, we could allude to certain scenes that could be scary, but then, as you just saw, I kind of popped out of the thing there. There's always like a means to an end. So, in keeping it and I do that because you're going to appeal to a larger majority of people that way. Like our jazz, I cut it, again, with a nod to Dave Brubeck and melodies and things like that. Keeping it melodic and lyrical. A lot of people we that come to our concerts say, I never really liked jazz before, but I like your music. And it's because we're keeping it accessible. So I like to look at this as it's accessible to the people on TV. There's a show on TV. I'm sure you've seen it. It's called Mountain Monsters. the show is incredibly scripted. But people love it. It's a total escape for people, and they want to know what's going to happen next. It's just, it's a scripted TV show, but it's great. And they ripped my phone. So
that's the first day.
Yeah.
Even when it's on silent.
Exactly. So we've got about 3 minutes left for this part 1. This is part 1 here, and we're going to dive into this pizza.
Is it time for the pizza? It's time for the pizza now.
So why don't we dive into the pizza now, and then we're going to come back in a few seconds and do part 2.
Yeah.
How's that sound?
Absolutely.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
This podcast is sponsored by Relevant, a location-based mobile network personalized by your interests. Customize your news feed to consolidate all the information you care about all in one place to quickly and easily find what's relevant to you. Find out what's going on in your local area and reach your community from the palm of your hand. Relevant is available on iOS and coming soon to Android. Be the first to know with Relevant. What's up, guys? We're back with the Poorly Edited Podcast, and we're here with Bucks County Paranormal Investigations, and we're going to keep talking to Eric Mintel. Now, we were talking a little bit when we were eating pizza, dining over this feast.
Look at this. Look at this feast.
Beautiful.
2 boxes done. 2 boxes gone.
Shout out to Princeton Pizza. Thank you again.
Pie.
Princeton Pie. Not to be confused with Princeton Pizza.
Not P-I-E.
I'm talking 3.14 here.
P-I.
I'll just leave now. Excuse me.
We were talking, you're a jazz piano player, which in my opinion is the greatest state of jazz, or of piano.
Thank you.
In my opinion. It's a beautiful, the amount of control and things you can create with jazz piano, I think is beautiful. Like, some of the greatest riffs.
So many. Well, we were talking about emotions earlier in the thing. The piano to me has got so many different emotional things.
Yes.
It's there right in front of you. I love it. I love it so much.
It's an amazing instrument.
I've been playing for years. Probably my parents could find me at the piano at like 3 years old. Had a very fascination with the instrument, and we didn't have much, but we had a piano in the house. Thank God it was in tune most of the time, and so they would find me. And then when I was I would play like cartoon show themes for my friends, and then when I was about 14, I found the music of Dave Brubeck going through my parents' record collection. I was listening to a lot of rhythm and blues stuff, Elvis, Ray Charles, all these maybe folk music, all kinds of stuff. And then I found Dave Brubeck's record in there and put it on, had that, when you have that epiphany of this is what I want to do.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I knew that's the music that I wanted to play, even though at that age I didn't know they called it jazz, And just learned everything I could on Dave Brubeck and a lot of other players, and but always stuck to the piano. And then was very fortunate to meet Dave, be at his house, and then later on to be performing for 2 presidents, Clinton in 1998 and President Obama in 2011.
Let's not gloss over that.
Yeah, I feel like we got.
You sent me 2 photos. This wasn't like the president happened to be there, and it was like some really big, huge event with stadium with like 1,000 other people, and you were just like performing off to the side.
When the president just happens to be
you just happens to be somewhere. These photos of you with Obama and Clinton, you are right there with him, like in a suit. He's in a suit, he's in a suit, like shaking hands.
Yeah.
It's like it's pretty personal.
We had matching suits. Matching suits.
We actually traded suits. I wore his.
My suit had my
his was
tied
a
his
little
face
baggy on me. But it was like he had a good 2 inches. But Clinton was tall, man. He had
Really?
He had like a good he was like 6'1", 6'2".
It was the suit.
It was definitely the suit.
It's all in the suit.
It was in the suit and the shoes. It was the shoes. Platform shoes.
What was it like being at the White House playing for the president of the United States?
Also, how did that happen?
And how do you maybe get a gig like that?
Just you're like, guys, my car broke down. Is it?
Are they looking for new podcasts to be
As a matter of fact, excuse me, could we play here? We just broke down out front.
It's a stormy night, and you're like, I have nowhere to go. Maybe I stay.
1600 Pennsylvania
Come on in.
Avenue. What is that?
So we get right. So
That's a big gig.
Are they snipers?
who are these guys? So now, the long story short, man, I wanted to do something different with jazz. We all want to go to that next level, right? You guys are doing some great things. You're going to this next production. So me as a jazz musician, I thought to myself, well, you know what? I want to take my music to a different level. I just don't want to play bars. I don't want to play different places, like local places. I wanted to kind of get it out there. So anyway, I called
the White House.
I called the White House.
Okay.
I called the White House and I said, by the way, do you have any kind of opportunities for jazz musicians to perform? And originally I thought maybe it would be like to play for troops overseas.
You're not joking.
No, I'm
You called the White House.
I called the White House. I still got the number on my phone. So I
What?
All right.
So I called the White House.
The White House isn't like a listed number. It's like you call
look up
I'm just gonna look up the number for Applebee's because it's just like White House.
Don't forget.
Hey, White House.
Don't forget, it is the people's house.
Yeah. It's true.
So the phone number's right there. It's right online. Go look at it. Boom, right there.
I never
So
considered-
Call him right now.
I had no
what a
idea
move.
that we
Hold
could
on.
just be like, I have a problem.
Excuse me. So anyway, so I called and I said, do you have any opportunities for musicians? Well, they told me to call the social secretary at the White House. So I called her, sent, and at the time it was like I didn't really have email or anything like that. So I sent, they said, go ahead and send something in. So I sent a CD we had at the time, some loose press clippings I had. I just threw them in this envelope. Nothing in a folder or anything. And about 2 weeks later, I get a call on my machine, on my answering machine. I was on the road, and they said, this is the White House. We'd like to invite the Eric Mintel Quartet to perform at the White House for Christmas. So we just played for a dinner reception for President Clinton, for friends and family and political powers at the time. So it was neat. It was
Once again, why are you being so nonchalant about
I just
this?
want to get a bit into the headspace of like
Look,
where
at
you're
some
at.
point, it's just another gig, right?
Going up into a gig like that, where you're like, okay, guys, this is like,
It was, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
I know.
we gotta really.
At the time, well, yeah. At the time, it's. I guess I'm being nonchalant because I've always been like told that, well, it wasn't that great. It was,
Well, once
it
you
was-
get the
yeah, but
second
it was-
reception, then it's like.
Well, it was kind of like, then the second time around. But the first time, we'll get back to that. So, you have to go through all the security measures. And
Yeah.
we pulled in. A saxophone player we had at the time had rented a van, so the security's out there with the the mirror under the van when the
crazy.
dogs are out
That
there.
is crazy.
They were even like going through the Army band's instruments, so it was a huge thing. So we got in there, played, and our set I think was only like 45 minutes. So it was like it was quick, but it was really
longer than some people are getting at these
45
bars.
minutes with the president there and
Yeah.
all of these heads of state and everything watching. That's a long set.
It was cool. Well, everybody was mingling, which was cool, but
Yeah.
we were right there. But the cool thing for me was that I remember Dave Brubeck, again, my mentor in jazz world. He was at the White House in 1968, and he's playing the same piano in this picture that I was playing on. It's the
that's
White House
really
piano. It was
cool.
really cool. So that was like an accomplishment for me. I'm like, oh man, this thing's awesome. So then come to 2011, my girlfriend said, well, you should try to call the White House again. I said, nah, that's like a once in a lifetime
That's kind of
thing.
played out.
Yeah, why do it? Why do it again? So I called, and the same thing. They said, what's your availability for like December of 2011? I'm like,
Oh,
okay.
you know what? I'm actually busy that day.
Sorry, White House.
So there we go. We played for Obama, and it was wild. It was just like incredible.
That is insane.
Yeah. So and we got a chance to meet him. The cool thing is, the Marine Guard takes you down to meet the president. They go, Mr. President, Eric Mintel Quartet. And I had said to President Obama too. I said, Mr. President Eric Mintel, we have a mutual friend in Dave Brubeck. And he said, Dave Brubeck was the very first jazz concert I ever went to see with my father when I was a kid.
Whoa.
So it was cool. It's like so many really cool connections
That's
there.
amazing.
And it was cool. And it was wild just to be able to, be there, because you see them on TV, right? We see them on television all the time. And just to be there, it's just kind of really surreal that way. But very, very nice. And Michelle was there, First Lady, and they're very big jazz lovers
are.
and jazz fans. They were
They're
great.
huge supporters of the arts.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Big supporters of the arts. Yeah.
Very, very nice people. And so it was a lot of fun. And but we've been there, done that. So it's like
No,
now
we're
what?
Princeton TV. Like, can't touch
And
us
here we
now.
are.
Yeah, right.
We're busy now. Which one was your favorite president to perform for?
Will the Secret Service come after you?
Are they like
if you
waiting
pick?
outside?
They will come after you.
Okay.
He didn't even ask the question.
Hit us up.
I'm all right with that.
We're available.
No, so who was our favorite president? I don't know. They both were. It was cool. I mean, it was
Yeah.
really neat to be there.
Yeah.
I assume
It was just so cool.
there's enough room for more than one favorite president.
Yeah.
There's true.
There's a lot of them. So yeah,
Could people have, like,
There's actually
multiple
not a lot of them.
One of my favorites was Washington, but he's not here anymore.
yeah.
When it comes to highlights in your career, whether it's paranormal or otherwise, I mean, that's got to be close to the top, right?
Yeah,
And you're
definitely.
like, so Mr. Obama, is there any ghosts?
I hear the Lincoln bedroom's funny.
Have you asked,
real,
like,
though, I mean-
can we do a White House paranormal investigation?
Is there
You
a
never
different
know.
secretary
Not
for
with
that?
this White House, I don't think, but I'll maybe for the next one. But I don't know. I'm sure. I'm not sure.
If Kanye gets in as president, then he'll definitely allow you to do a
Looking
22.
forward
Oh my God. So Zach just brought up your highest points as a jazz artist.
Jazz artist,
So
yeah. But,
if
you know,
it
beyond-
wasn't the White House, or if that is one of them, what is one of the other things you've been the most proud of?
Well, beyond all that, I do want to say that we do a lot of workshops and concerts at colleges and universities.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm most proud of, because we're, again, leaving a legacy, and
Yeah. Right.
the
Teaching.
students and teaching,
Passing it
and
on.
when we do workshops, the students are like sponges for the music, because they don't really know too much about jazz. You know, it's like, unless the school has a really great music program and whatnot, but they're not going to know that much about jazz. But they love what we're doing, and once they get it, they get it. And that's what I
That's
love
always the
about
weird
it.
thing about jazz. I feel like high school kids can be into it and they'll do jazz music, and it seems like, but I feel like there's always like they don't really know what they're doing yet. Even in, like,
yeah.
once they get to college, it's like jazz is so like.
It's a language.
Yeah.
It's a language.
Yeah.
I mean, jazz is totally a language, because it's like, if you're like me, anybody who knows the language can sit in a group and sit and jam and go into jam session, and there's certain rules, you know, that you have, but you should be able to sit and jam. But when they're learning that voice, they're learning that improvisational factor. They're just their language is just beginning. So it takes a lifetime. That's the whole thing. It's like right now we're having a conversation, we're improvising amongst ourselves, you know. So it's same thing musically.
When you say jazz is a language, like it's actually it's so literal, because jazz started as a literal language between people that did not speak the same language, and that brought them together because that was a
Absolutely.
common thing that they understood. And
Have
like,
you ever thought of using that to interact with ghosts?
That's such a
Has it
good
ever-
point.
That's an
Like,
idea.
you just like pop a
think I
piano
should.
down, and start playing, and just like listen.
And then you just
wait,
heard
see
like
if
the
someone
same
tunes
notes
it.
coming back.
And it might have been a jazz guy, and then
Yeah, maybe.
starts some jam.
You head on down to like New Orleans, just like start
Yeah, maybe.
checking out some haunted jazz places.
You never know
Might
what
be.
they're
Savannah's really haunted.
they're waiting
Really?
around.
Savannah.
I was just
I think
in
we all need to
Savannah
go down
a
to do
few
it.
months ago. Yeah.
Let's go, Patrick.
Savannah looks haunted. just like the aesthetic of that entire city. Like Savannah just looks
you ever
haunted.
been-
Like I
Totally.
believe you 100%.
Oh,
You
yeah.
ever like,
Crazy.
have you ever
It's
investigated anywhere? Be like, this place has to be haunted, and then at the end you're like,
It's not.
I haven't seen a
Yeah,
ghost
not a
yet.
lot of
Well,
Have you been to New Orleans?
That's a very good point. There's a lot of places that you go in and you think, wow, this place is really going to be like crazy haunted here. We just were at the Selma Mansion in Norristown, and that place has supposedly got a lot of paranormal activity. We filmed another video. It wasn't an investigation, but we used that house as a filming location. For the Norristown Historical Society let us film in there. But that's got a lot of weird activity. Now, have you ever felt like in places where you go in, you feel like a weird vibe? Do you ever get that?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that. It's like when you go into certain places, it feels real close. And that's kind of like where I think, I don't get that a lot, but if in some of those places that, you know, that could have a lot of activity, it's not, could it be a mindset? You know, you're already going in with a preconceived thing? Maybe. But if you don't know that and you feel like, whoa, there's something going on here, there's a lot of people that feel that a lot more than me personally. And there's a lot of people that won't even go in to certain places.
I actually met someone a few years back who they invited me to their home, and I felt something very odd, very uncomfortable, to the point that it made me sick. Like I got sick. Like I
Wow.
actually got sick, and then I found out later on that evening they were like, "Yeah, somebody did die in this house very recently." And I had been back there before. I've since gone back there, and it's been better, but I've gone into the place where it happened, and I like immediately know. Like I've gone into the place without thinking about it, and I immediately just like feel it. So I personally think that that's a very real thing that you can feel when
totally.
something has happened, good or bad. Like sometimes you walk into a place and there's a very, very positive spirit and sense, And that should also be remembered, because people usually think it's very negative, but that doesn't happen to be the case at all.
No, not at all. I mean, we're talking ghosts and things like that, and spirits and stuff, and there's like so many other, paranormal phenomena around that are up, all the time that people are seeing. It's like you try to decipher. You say, well, where do these things emanate from? Is it from the imagination? Are they really seeing this thing? But then it's like, if you see things and it's like, wait a minute, then you do some research on it, and then it goes back in history that same particular thing has been seen in that particular area. You have to kind of look at it and say, maybe there is something here. Maybe there's something to it. Sometimes the folklore, there's a little bit of truth to the folklore.
Yeah.
See, I feel kind of robbed, because my house is the creepiest basement I've ever seen in my life, and no ghosts.
Yeah.
There's actually tally marks scratched into the door facing the basement side.
That's not good.
And I'm like, someone had to have died here.
That's not
and they're
good.
mad.
Guess what? I think we need to do an investigation.
Probably.
Dude, there's nothing there, though. I've never even felt weird. I feel more comfortable in the basement.
So I actually had ghosts growing up as a child. I grew up in this beautiful kind of mansion-y house, a brick Victorian. It was built in 1902. It was very old and beautiful, and my mother told me about it. She's like, I just want you to let you know, and I was like 9 years old, that there are a few ghosts in the house.
Nice thing. Nice.
She's like, I just want to let you know there's gonna be some people. There's gonna be some people staying with us for the next couple of years, and I was like, well, should we?
for dinner?
I was like, well, should I be scared? And she was like, no, they're very positive.
There's a little
spirits.
pause there.
Yeah.
She was like, they're very positive
no.
spirits, but I just want you to know, I never want you to bring a Ouija board in the house. I always feel like she said that she always thinks thinks that it will open up the opportunity for negative spirits to come out, or the negative spirits to trick you. But she was like, the ones that are already there. So I had these ones, and this one was named Arlene Smith. This woman died in our house, and she was like the most positive spirit. She would leave. She would turn on lights for us.
Wow.
And she would open doors for us, or unlock doors for us. And she would have her friends over, poker nights, every Friday. She would have.
Did you win?
I would be home alone, and every Friday
What do you
she
win
would
if you
have
win ghost poker?
she would have men over,
Ghost.
and they would walk back and forth around the house. Somebody I always thought someone was not. I had to call 911 before, because I thought someone was in our house.
Wow.
People walking back and forth, people opening doors, people moving things. I saw something fall down, and then it was back where it was when I walked right back, and I was alone in the house. And that was what I grew up with as a child, which was a very interesting experience.
I bet. Yeah. Because it brought that sense of wonder or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a woman that contacted me at a school. I can't name the name of the school, but she was getting ready for classes in September, and it's a Quaker school, and it's from very old. And she was putting things away in her cubbies, got all the things together. She goes out of the room, comes back in the room 3 minutes later, everything's out on the floor. All the things got thrown back out on the. So, she wanted us to come in and try to see if we can find out exactly what's going on or whatever. But a lot of people have seen so many different things going on in there. So that's one thing, it's a legitimate thing. And then you don't know. You just don't know. A guy called me, actually called me, and emailed me. He's got a spirit in his house. It's driving him crazy, and those are the things you have to run up. There's a fine line on. There's another organization up in the Lehigh Valley that I usually refer these guys to. If there's going to be a really intense investigation, then I'll refer this other team to it. But have you ever had the opportunity to mediate, actually have the opportunity to speak to something paranormal or connect in a way that you could speak or mediate or communicate with? Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Is that a goal of yours, that you could find something to actually feel that you're really communicating? No. You know. You're we want to find them, but we don't want to talk to them. Let's put it this way. It's if you're looking for something like that, then 9 times out of 10 it's never going to happen. Mm-hmm. It's those those that you're just that orb that I was telling you about. We weren't even looking for that, and it just so happened. But yeah, those are things that it's going to either have to be very, very a controlled environment, so you can really channel in on that particular spirit or that energy. But yeah, I know it's hard to say. Who knows? I mean, one of the guys in my group, if he sees a ghost, he might bolt. Who knows? I don't know. It's all the emotional things attached to that. So you don't know. It's always a fine line.
I mean, you'd probably like to hope your team isn't going to bolt, though. Like when they
Yeah.
you'd like to believe.
If we're going to be your team on one of these episodes,
Yeah, like,
I can't promise anything.
But Patrick, see, nothing scares him. So I'm sure.
No. They will be out of there.
Yeah.
Specifically Chandler, they will be out of there in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Like your cell phone could go off and Chandler will be like 5 miles down the street.
Gone.
I'm going to plan something else for that night just to have an excuse to leave. And it doesn't look like I'm scared.
I gotta take a call. It's really scary in here.
It's my cousin's birthday. I got to
Just a moment.
Yeah, but like, you know,
Yeah, but really though.
so it's hard. Yeah, but really though, I'm terrified. Yeah, that kind of, you know, I'm a bit of a skeptic, I will admit. But I will say that I think when something happens to somebody, that they're just like, dude, I have no idea what's going on. To the point where you get on the phone and call someone and be like, can you please come look at my house? Like, I will admit, something probably did happen. You know what I mean?
Nobody
Like,
wants to make that
nobody
call.
wants to make that call.
Let me say this too. That, like I said earlier in the first episode, there, you know, that's the one thing we go in is I'm not one of those guys that's going to sit there and believe everything that's going on. I'm going to sit there and be like, I'm going to see if we can debunk what the heck
practical
that was. The factual things.
This is what they said.
Exactly.
Right.
What could it be?
Yeah.
Oh wait, it's a window up here, like banging in the wind.
Yeah.
You know, something like that. Or if you can't explain it, then you've got to kind of either do more research on it, or you know, kind of look at the backstory.
What was the biggest thing that you've had happen where you're like, I have no idea how I could debunk this? Like you thought to yourself, this might have to be paranormal. Like this might actually have to be the real thing.
It was probably that orb, you know. And there was another couple of incidents in McCool's when we were there that other things had happened, like you know, things fell over with nobody being around it, like the little statues, and then just the stories from these people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you know, you look at it and you say, well, you know, they're very, very sincere about these things. You know, it's like, and you could kind of I could tell when people are kind of like BSing you and stuff like that. But when they're genuinely scared, or they have that emotional quality in their voice, you know, you have to kind of take that at face value and say, well, they experienced something. Yeah. So our job is to see what it was and to help them understand what it was. Yeah. So that they're not, you know, going to be scared to walk in that particular restaurant.
But if you had anyone on the opposite spectrum where they're just like, this is my ghost. This is my best friend, man. Like this is
Absolutely.
me and my ghost always get along over here.
There was a woman. We were just at the Selma mansion, and she there's a general that's in this. There was an old general that used to own the house, and she sees him and has conversations all the time. So you know that's another thing. So that's but that's part of their reality. That's, you know what I'm saying. So that's part of their reality. Mm-hmm. So you know we all have our own things. But you don't know. You know, did I experience anything there? No, but she has. So it's like it's again, it's that fine line. You know, where do you draw the line from saying, well, this is not really happening, or yeah, this could be something.
But I think that's really cool, you know, having that approach, especially being more of a skeptic going into things where you're like, okay, it's kind of, you know, it really is an investigation. You're kind of investigating what is the cause of this, critically thinking and figuring out those factors. Yeah,
and I've always been that way. I'm always trying to debunk it. Now, two things that happened, now not ghost-wise, but 2016, January of 2016, going over, do you guys know Stockton, New Jersey at all? Have you ever been down there? It's like, you know, New Hope area. There's an area right down the street, Stockton, New Jersey. My girlfriend and I, this is at night, about 8 o'clock. It was dark. It was fall night. This was January of 2000, so it was still dark at like 5:30. So 6 o'clock, we're going over the bridge, and all of a sudden, I just happened to look up, and then it caught my eye. There was 5 red orbs, or lights. It looked like, I thought they were Chinese lanterns, because there's a restaurant right there that I thought maybe there was somebody getting married and they set these lanterns off. But they came up like this, 1, 2, 5 of them like that. And I'm fumbling to get my phone to try to take a picture, and I was able to get one shot. But with that, she saw, and they just kind of went up, and it looked like they were doing a search pattern for a second, and then boom, 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 and then they disappeared. So I'm like, wow, what the heck was that? You know, and that was something to me, I was like, well, you know what, you could say that you see these lights and whatnot, but I actually saw that. I actually saw this thing. We both saw it. And that I couldn't explain away. But then I looked at online, and I said, was there did anyone else see that night? And there was a whole bunch of reports online in that area for that night. So that's one instance.
And nobody had an explanation for it?
Nobody had, and there was the restaurant didn't have a wedding. They were closed, and it was very interesting. So, and I've seen other reports like that, but yeah, it still has. You don't know what it is today. The guy who was the star of UFO Hunters, Bill Burns, from the History Channel, he and I interviewed him on my show. He's a great guy, and we're going to be doing some things together on some UFO stuff and some other paranormal investigations as well. So that's going to be coming up pretty soon too. So
are
it's
you,
going to be a lot of fun.
into the extraterrestrial?
Oh yeah. I probably believe in that a little bit more than I do the ghosts.
I would say, yeah, me too.
Because
do you believe in ghosts and Bigfoot and UFOs?
I you know what? I believe that there's another realm of reality out there. I think we can't be the only ones here. So I think there is other life forms out there. But to think that we're the only ones here, really, it's ridiculous. But just the sheer number of people that have seen, it's incredible. I interviewed Kathleen Marden. Now, Kathleen Marden, you guys, this is way before your time. The very first UFO abduction experience was Betty and Barney Hill in 1961. I interviewed her, their niece, Kathleen, and their story is incredible. If you ever get a chance to look online about that. And they came across 2 hours of missing time, and they had all of this other things happen where Betty had these nightmares, and they went to a noted psychiatrist, and he put them under hypnosis, and this whole thing came out that they had been taken aboard the ship, they had been examined, and her dress was torn. There was material on the dress that they couldn't, like organic material, they couldn't even identify at the time. So, and it made worldwide news. So it's still one of the cases today that nobody knows about. Nobody can properly explain.
But they were returned.
They were returned. Oh yeah, they were returned. They were returned, and then they were coming back from their vacation in Maine. They were up at Niagara Falls, and they were coming through Maine and through New Hampshire, and that's when it happened. And she had seen a light in the sky, thought it was a plane, and it got closer and closer, and then it landed pretty much in the middle of the road, and it made them veer off into a side area. And Kathleen talks about how they mapped out exactly where they were taken, and it's a whole account on if you Google it, it's an incredible story. And it's something that you could say, well, really, but there's a lot of evidence there, a lot of physical evidence where a lot of these other cases there's not. So you can easily say with the other cases, well, this could be, whatever. But with these guys, it was really interesting. So that's what kind of jazzes me up about, the paranormal. I love that kind of stuff.
If you don't believe in that kind of thing, that's a really crazy thing to be able to say. Be like, well, you're always like, well, my family's crazy. And you're like, well, my aunt and uncle say they were kidnapped by aliens.
The abduction thing is another thing that's like, there's a lot of people that have been involved in that. Now, I don't know personally, I don't know anybody that has had that, but it's just another community of people again that's experienced that. So again, it's all experiences. It's like whether it's true or not, that's the fine line, and that's the investigation part. You have to do the research.
I think.
Yeah, 24 seconds left.
I think there's 1,000 more
24
things.
seconds.
There's so many more things that we could say. We could sit here all day long.
Chandler, 24 seconds, go. Zak,
outro.
Go.
No, it's been amazing. Honestly, it's been amazing talking.
It's been amazing talking to you guys. You guys are awesome.
We've had an absolute blast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And gotten to talk about
You're
so many
welcome.
interesting things that I never thought we'd really get the opportunity to talk about.
Let's do
Especially
it
somebody
again.
as qualified as you and experienced and seasoned as you.
Well, listen, we're all going to go on investigations soon, so.
I can't wait. I'm
excited.
I'm excited.
So
I'm so excited.
we're going to hook it up, okay?
All right.
Thank you so much.
And we got Josh and Lizzie back there too. Thank
Josh
you.
and Lizzie on camera. Make sure that you follow the Eric Mintel Quartet.
Eric Mintel Quartet.
Yeah.
EricMintelQuartet.com, and we've got a lot of shows coming up soon. And we've got a lot of investigations coming up, and always got some fun videos on the way. So, and then one of these videos, you're going to see this fine group of people
running out of a spooky building.
Very scared.
Stay tuned for more on the Poorly Edited Podcast, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or Lab 212 on everything as well. Right? I don't know who we are. I'm the social media person. I have no idea who we are.
You got it right.
I think that's pretty much it.
Poorly Edited Podcast on Facebook, Lab 212 on everything else.
Thanks so much for
Thank
watching.
you so much.
Have a great day.